Hello there, good evening. You're welcome to Ghana Tonight. Let's look at our top stories. Tonight, majority and minority caucuses in Parliament spar over whether Chief Justice nominee is suited for vetting scheduled for Monday. Tonight is the Speaker who has the final word. Also coming up, Deputy Attorney General hints Minority Leader Alexander Apenyo-Makin will soon be prosecuted for assaulting a police officer on duty. Tonight, all that we have learned. Plus, we zoom out and see the big picture. After multiple brazen attacks on anti-Galamsey teams, the latest sending journalists to the ER, and that sparks calls for immediate action. Those are the top stories. I'm Keminni Amanor. If you just joined us, this is Ghana Tonight. We are coming to you live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. We are also streaming on 3news.com, youtube.com, and facebook.com. You'd also find us on x.com. Join us with your comments, thoughts, and questions using the hashtag Ghana Tonight. We can now bring you Ghana Brief, after which we'll look at our big stories.
The minority in Parliament has insisted that the vetting of Chief Justice nominee Paul Bafo-Boni cannot happen until the pending legal cases filed by Gertrude Tokonu have been decided. It follows an earlier motion they submitted to the Speaker asking that he stops the appointment committee from all processes leading to the vetting. The majority side rejected the demand by the minority and said the vetting will still happen on Monday, November 10, as advertised. Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Nyakwampim has said that the decision by the management of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust (SNET) to look for strategic investors for 3 of its struggling hotels will be scrutinized to ensure the move is in the best interest of SNET.
We would want to give assurance that any decision to involve a strategic investor will be carefully looked at and will be in the interest of SNET. We will not do that for any politically exposed person. SNET will take a decision that will be in the interest of SNET and for pensioners of this country.
The Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited (SML) has appealed to government to rescind its decision to terminate the company's contract with the Ghana Revenue Authority. The termination followed by investigations by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which concluded that there was no justification for the contract and that its scope and financial terms were unnecessary and potentially wasteful. But SML disagrees. A member of the company's legal team, Cephas Boyu, insists the contract was beneficial to the state and has accused the OSP of spreading falsehoods. He spoke earlier in a media briefing.
Now, in the OSP's press release, and their press actually, it was filled with insinuations, speculative remarks, innuendos, assumptions, and veiled accusations, rather than presenting clear facts and evidence to the Ghanaian people. Deliberate misinformation in the guise of investigation, and then also distortion and political coloration by the OSP.
The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has condemned the violent attack on Environmental Protection Authority officials and journalists in Obuasi and the NIMOS team in Shidium. The incident occurred during a raid on the activities of illegal miners. The ministry in a press briefing confirmed its commitment to getting to the bottom of the cases involving a number of officials, including journalists, who were injured during the attack.
2 journalists were in critical condition. Per the reports I received this morning, they are quite stable. One had to be operated on, had a surgery yesterday. This incident is unfortunate. Honorable Amakofi-Boa, again, who also doubles as Acting Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, wishes to convey his utmost disappointment at this turn of events for these incidences. And he wishes to make it clear that he remains resolute and unperturbed, and he is resolved to deal with the matter on hand.
The youth of Shridium have refuted allegations that they attacked members of the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat Task Force. According to them, the incident was carried out by some youth from a nearby town. The chairman of Shridium Youth, Kojo Entry, stated that many young people in the area have begun fleeing the town out of fear that the task force may return to retaliate.
People have mobbed or beaten and security personnel. Because of that, the reason why we are doing this conference, that it has somehow happened at the Jabawasi. So people are combining that what happened there is the same thing. No.
Some people are trying to leave.
Yes. So people are living in fear. Can't you see? People are living in fear. They are running away the town because they know that the soldiers will come to revenge. So we are pleading, the media, please help us.
The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection has disclosed that the docket on alleged sexual abuse of a 16-year-old Siano Soccer Academy footballer, Ransford Owusu-Ansah, has been transferred to the homicide unit of the CID headquarters by the Amasaman Dovsu for further investigations. Ransford Owusu-Ansah was allegedly sodomized by his coach Ibrahim Anyas while he was under his care. Ransford played for the Siano Soccer Academy in Amasaman. The victim had been receiving medical care since December 2024 and was later admitted to the Okomfo Anoche Teaching Hospital for medical treatment, but unfortunately passed on.
Well, Ghana Brief there for you. Still Ghana Tonight here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. Let's get into the drama that unfolded in Parliament ahead of Chief Justice nominees vetting. Tonight, we are learning that vetting of Chief Justice nominee Paul Bafo-Boni will happen after all. That's because Speaker Bagbin's ruling, but not before a heated debate among leadership of the majority and minority caucuses. We want to show you excerpts of the exchange of words and how it all played out in Parliament today. Take a look.
Rather than we being threatened by the chief whip of the majority that vetting will happen with all his might, we are not dealing with might. That vetting will not happen. It will not happen. You must follow due process. Follow the law. Do the right thing. We, the minority, will not shut our mouth. You can follow due process.
Mr. Speaker, for us to adopt this business statement, we are going to take a decision. And to take that decision means we need 138 members of parliament present to do that. And we don't have. At the moment, we are 108. in this chamber. So for that matter, Mr. Speaker, we cannot adopt the business statement. Mr. Speaker, we cannot adopt the business statement at the moment. We cannot take that decision.
You've not done it. You can't hold that to ransom. Mr. Speaker, I'm a minister responsible for local government, chieftaincy, and religious affairs. From 2 o'clock, I'm sitting here debating business statement. On that note, Mr. Speaker, so long as there's no motion before you, just move forward. Let's adopt the report.
Honorable Asafwade, if your leaders are asking you to sit down, please resume your seat. Why? At least if your whips are asking you to resume your seat, resume your seat. If you won't listen to me, listen to your whips.
Speaker, the minority membership
Honorable members, if things continue this way, I will not hesitate to invoke the rules by calling on you to either walk out. If you refuse, I would invite the marshal to walk you out.
Well, let's put all of this into proper context. Our Christian Yard, it was there, now joins me here in the studio with that much-needed context. Christian, again, thank you so much for covering Parliament. You always do this so well and effortlessly. But put all the pieces together for us. What are we looking at?
Kems, we know that the, let's say, removed Chief Justice has a number of court cases that are currently pending. Now, few of them, there is one that even borders on constitutional interpretation, one that she is asking that if she is even removed as a Chief Justice, she still has that right to remain on the Supreme Court bench, which case is at the High Court. We even know that the learned Attorney General asked that that case be transmitted to the Supreme Court because of the constitutional issue that is involved. There is another in which she asked that, if anything at all, the processes that led to her removal are questionable. Here, she questions the Justice Puaman Committee's work. Now, over the period, we've had the minority, even before Parliament resumed from recess, question the work of the Puaman Committee, and among many other things, make a case that their work was unconstitutional, for which reason they believe that, if anything at all, there must be that thorough engagement to more or less ascertain whether the removal process was right at all. We know also that the removed Chief Justice is currently at the ECOWAS court as well. So the minority leader over the period has made the case that, if anything at all, there should be that time for the respective court, i.e. the High Court. You also have the ECOWAS court. Consider at least these 6 pending cases before Parliament could proceed. They then went ahead to submit what we call the motion to the office of the Speaker, asking the Speaker to, as a matter of urgency, halt all processes leading to the vetting of Justice Paul Bafuboni, which is scheduled to take place this Monday coming. And so today, he just reiterated that same point, that if anything at all, Parliament must take its hands off the vetting processes until all of these cases have been decided. So this has been the context.
But the majority side holds a different view.
Certainly.
What are they saying?
Because, I mean, when you listen to the majority leader, Mahama Yarega, he is of the view that, per what the Constitution says, Parliament is an arm of government that stands on its own. And then you have the judiciary, where the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the rest fall under. Per the Constitution, Parliament cannot be made to suspend its decision or its action because another arm of government has to deal with a particular case. And in this case, Mahama Yarga makes the case that until there is that order from the Supreme Court injuncting or restraining Parliament from going ahead to, vet the Supreme Court or the Chief Justice nominee, the minority leader has no right in basing his argument on the pending cases to say that Parliament should wait until another arm of government, which is the case that the Speaker himself also makes, for which reason he bases his argument to rule out the motion that is, asking him to halt or stop the vetting process until all of these court cases have been decided. The minority leader says that, see, the removed Chief Justice is a citizen. She reserves all the rights to fair hearing. So you cannot seek to corner her just like that and install a new Chief Justice when her case or cases have not been decided. That's the context to all of the drama that we are seeing. That
took place today in Parliament. But eventually, Speaker Bagbin had the final word on this debate.
And he wasn't even around when all of this started. Ordinarily, every Friday you have the business statement delivered to give a fair idea of how businesses in the House are going to unfold in the ensuing week. After that, members have the opportunity to debate or make commentaries. That is when all of this started unfolding. At that moment, and just as we saw in that clip play earlier, the first Deputy Speaker, Bernard Ahiafo, was presiding. The Speaker, per his own narration, was observing all the drama as it unfolded in the House, and later came to deliver a ruling. And which ruling is basically what I had earlier summarized, which was earlier echoed by the majority leader, that after he had reviewed the motion that was dropped at his office, looked at the text, looked at the merit and demerit of it thereof, he decided, and also looking at the standing orders and what the Constitution says, decided that that motion was inadmissible. He couldn't have admitted that motion, for which reason, and just as the standing orders indicate, had to transmit it back to the sponsor of the motion, which is the minority leader. And so that ends it.
So what were the reactions post the Speaker's ruling?
You can guess it, Kems. You can guess it because the minority is hell-bent on that. And very shortly, even just some few moments before we came on set, we have had that new petition which they have sent to the president. Somewhere around 6th October, there is one individual who sent a petition to the president asking that the appointed Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafuboni, be removed from office, and they are making some claims, grounds of stated misbehavior. Now, just today, after that, which happened in Parliament, they've written to the president asking him for an update, and a right to information.
I see. Monday is going to be a very interesting day.
Very, very interesting. But Kems, probably we can hear from the Speaker deliver his ruling and what exactly he says, for which reason he has dismissed this motion. It means that the vetting happens by all means.
Indeed, we will. And thank you so much for bringing us the update. Let's take a listen to Speaker now.
I have considered deeply the proposed motion. I considered the text, and I concluded that there was no basis for me to exercise the discretion to admit the motion. I have a copy of the proposed motion here. The motion, in summary, suggests that Parliament, as an arm of state, should stay its hand until another cognate arm of state takes action on a matter pending before it, even when there is no definite time for that arm of state to take the action. I find this suggestion constitutionally and procedurally unsustainable. Article 144, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution gives Parliament a clear and continuing duty to consider a president nomination for Chief Justice. That duty is not conditional on events elsewhere. I'm of the view that courts can continue to hear whatever matters are pending before them, but until there is an injunctive order, Parliament's authority remains intact. Judicial independence should not mean legislative paralysis. In any case, I have consistently questioned whether the Supreme Court could use its injunctive reliefs to stultify the work of another arm of state. I have considered the provisions on admissibility of motion, and I submit that the proposed motion is out of order. The motion is inadmissible, and same has been returned to the sponsor, the minority leader, Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin, as stated clearly by outstanding orders. I thank you all for your attention.
So it was after this ruling that we are also learning about that petition to the presidency to release information of any updates or sort on those petitions against or for the removal or investigation into the acting Chief Justice Paul Bafo-Boni. For emphasis, I want us to go over that letter that has gone to the presidency. Let's take a look at it. This letter seems to have been authored by the Honourable Member of Parliament for Wejagbawe, who is also the second Deputy Minority Whip, Jerry Ahmed Shaib. He talks about how whether or not Your Excellency, referring to the President, obviously, has referred this matter to the Council of State. The matter in question here is that petition by a Ghanaian citizen to the President over some misconduct, alleged misconduct, the acting Chief Justice, who will be vetted on Monday, has done, so to speak, right? And so he's asking the President whether or not this matter has been referred to the Council of State in accordance with the laid-down procedure. Now, we've been through this before because we've just removed the Chief Justice from office. We went through this entire process. And Jerry Ahmed Shaibu is also asking the President whether or not any actions have been taken or any decisions have been made by the Council of State in dealing with this matter. Essentially, they're asking, what have you done since you received the petition? And that's that one big question that the second Deputy Minority Whip, Honourable Member of Parliament for Wejagbawe, Jerry Ahmed Shaib, is asking of the executive. Now, those are questions I cannot answer. Hopefully, there will be some answers from the quarters of the executive. But what I can do now is ask some more questions. David Abdullah is a governance expert. He's joining us on the matter of this vetting process, to do or not to do, the Speaker rules that we will do. But the minority places last hand, which is to ask for updates on that petition. David, thank you so much for joining us here, Prof. How do you think this is playing?
Well, thank you for having me, Keminni. I think I've always believed that one person cannot hold the whole country to ransom. If you look at it clearly, the former Chief Justice went through the process laid down by the Constitution, and she's no longer the Chief Justice. If she's no longer the Chief Justice, why would she try to put an injunction on an appointed Chief Justice to go through the processes? It doesn't make any sense. I think the Speaker, came up with a very brilliant answer to what the issues were. And one of the issues is that, you cannot hold Parliament not to do its prescribed duties to the people of Ghana because a case is pending in court. But also, he also ruled that if you look at it clearly, that there is no constitutional rule or, by the standing orders that is asking or that prevents Parliament from listening or its committees to listen to the new Chief Justice and have it go through the processes. And finally, he talked about the fact that this is going to cause more of a precedent, a dangerous precedent, which means another arm of government can hold the Parliament incognito for working or for delivering its legal duty, the constitutional duty, because someone has filed a petition or has filed a motion in court. So I believe that has brought an end to this debate.
I see, but David,
sure,
David,
yes.
When you look at the issue in its entirety, and again, I'd have to say, based on what we have heard from the Speaker's ruling, there was no consideration of the petition against the acting Chief Justice and Chief Justice nominee now to be vetted on Monday. And so when we put all that into the piece, should that have been taken into consideration, for which reason Parliament should have staggered its progress of wanting to vet the Chief Justice nominee?
No, but the crux of the matter is there is no constitutional rule or none of the standing orders that makes it in such a way that Parliament should not vet the nominee.
But then the question, then David, the question will be,
yes.
The question will be, why would you want to vet somebody for a position where his or her conduct is being questioned already? Remember, there is the backdrop that a similar petition led to the removal of a Chief Justice. Why would we want to go through that process again should this petition hold water?
No, I don't think it's going to hold water. How do we know? How do we know that the appointed Chief Justice, has committed what the petitioners are talking about?
But David, how do we not know? How do we then not know? I throw your question back to you. How do we then not know that indeed any action has been done, or whether or not the allegations against the acting Chief Justice holds true, because we haven't heard anything?
Yes, but I mean, one can also ask you that, how do you know that the executive has received the petition? All these are things that we cannot say, but I would surmise that it is a way of the minority trying to, delay things. And Keminni, in this country, when you take a case to court, you know how long it takes. I mean, so are you saying that Parliament should not undertake its duties as per the Constitution because somebody has filed a petition in court? It's not an injunction.
But what the minority is saying, that Parliament does its job, but does it well in order for, for the benefit of this country. Because if you were employing somebody, if you were employing somebody and there was a police case even against the person, you would start to ask yourself questions twice about this candidate you're looking at, right? Why can't that be the same for the case of the acting Chief Justice? In that, Prof, there are allegations of misconduct against his activities as a justice of the Supreme Court. We haven't looked into that. Maybe we have informed the Ghanaian people, and it looks like we haven't informed Parliament either. But we want to go ahead and vet him, possibly promote him as Chief Justice. How right is that? That is not going through due process, is it?
Well, Kevin, you are jumping the gun. Why wasn't the petition filed when he was not even nominated? Because he's a justice of the Supreme Court. It could have been done at that time. You don't wait until when he's been appointed and then you are coming up with a petition. That tells you that, those people have an ulterior motive. I mean, if you just wanted that he has done something wrong, make sure that it would have been filed. And he is one of the oldest in the Supreme Court, not when he was appointed. So that gives you a little bit of, when you think about it, there's an ulterior motive.
There is an ulterior. But then again, whether or not there is an ulterior motive, at this time, does not the executive owe us the duty to tell us what has happened with it, just as the minority is seeking from the presidency?
Yeah, but I'm saying from my opinion that there's an ulterior motive. If he really had done something wrong, you make sure that you bring the case against him before he was even appointed. And that is done for all the Supreme Court justices.
Right, so Prof, what I'm asking you now is,
yes,
the executive has a duty. You've received the petition. You have a duty to follow the procedure.
How do you know, Keminni, how do you know the executive has received the petition?
Why don't we know about it now?
Well, that is why they are now filing, what do you call it? To find out whether the executive has received it. But that is different from saying the executive has received it and he has not acted. Nobody knows. But as it is, that should not hold Parliament from undertaking its constitutional duty. That is what I'm saying. Well,
and I think the best part of this, Prof, is that the minority has invoked RTI on the executive. We see how and what the response will be from the executive as far as this matter is concerned. But we know that on Monday, the process is going on as it should be, as far as the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee is concerned.
And that's the right thing to do. And then the minority must not forget that they don't have the supermajority that the majority has. And that is also the Constitution. And that's democracy.
I can't believe you went there.
Well, but that is it. We are talking about democracy. A majority carries the vote.
It sounds like you're telling the minority they don't have the numbers, and so they can be muscled around because they don't have the numbers.
No. They know they don't have the numbers.
But Prof, would you rather the legislature is cautious and gets it right than rush into this?
Well, Keminni, we've all been in this country. We don't want to recall incidences. But what is very clear is that I think, the minority has a right, and in a democracy, they have the right to be able to put forward their views. But I think some of these things, we must take the nation first. We must put Ghana first. Are you saying that we should have a country that does not have a Supreme Court justice until cases are heard? And if these cases are going to take 10 years, that means you are not going to have a Supreme Court justice until that time. I think that is what we're talking about. And in this particular case, it's the president that has appointed this person. If they don't come to the hearing, obviously still, the person is going to be approved. That's what I'm saying. So let's make sure that we are practical about some of these things and not being emotional. And the practicality is that the majority have this, the supermajority. Sorry.
Very well, Prof.
But
Prof,
yes.
I can see that brings you a lot of joy. But you hang in there for me.
It doesn't bring me a lot of joy. It just makes me understand that we must be practical as Ghanaians and as policymakers, as well as politicians.
Very well.
We should not be irrational.
Very well. Prof, hang in there for me. There's another matter I want to pick your thoughts on, because you remember that police assault case against Efutu MP Alexander Apenyo-Markin? It has resurfaced and he could be headed to court. Let's get into that now. Listen, in the last couple of hours, we have been following a bombshell revelation from the Office of the Attorney General that could potentially bring woes to the doorstep of the minority leader, Alexander Apenyo-Markin. Now, take a look at this. That's, the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Sremsai. He put this on his Facebook page. We've just culled from there. And he says, I can confirm that the docket on the Republic v. Alexander Apenyo-Makin is at the office of the Attorney General awaiting prosecutorial review and decision. The case involves a complaint of an assault. He ends by saying the ye. Now, this comes shortly after that drama that unfolded surrounding the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee in Parliament. And while I hesitate to draw a link between them, I can also unsee it, right? Now, when he put this up, there is no clear indication of which assault case it is, which is why I know you are asking yourself, how did we get here? I've got you covered. I've been tracking the lines back all the way to May, when that assault case on a police officer during the Save the Judiciary demonstration took place. Now let's go back into time and look at what I've been talking about. Well, that was also within that period that what is being called assault today happened. We know that since then, a formal complaint was made by the officer in question after the incident. It triggered an investigation, but not before the minority leader released his own version of events in a statement. Let's take a look at that. Again, I'm taking you back memory lane. So this is from May as well, when the minority leader explained the version of, oh, look at that, very apt photograph. This was exactly how he was dressed on that day when they went out for the Save the Judiciary demonstration. And this is how he talked about the incident. As I approached the barricade without any provocation, a uniformed police officer stationed behind the barricade, Constable Forson, a tall, fair, heavily built officer, deliberately struck the left side of my chest. Now take note of this because it's really important, right? He says he struck the left side of my chest with the full force of his right palm, directly near my heart. He goes on to say that the impact of the hit dazed me and I was visibly shaken and short of breath. In that moment, I spontaneously protested his conduct, asking why he would seek to harm me. The inspector who was facilitating my access, along with other officers, quickly intervened and assisted me into a restricted area where I had to lean against the wall at the entrance of Parliament to prevent myself from collapsing. A National Service personnel from Parliament, whom I know, approached and offered me water. 2 CID officers from Parliament also came to check on me and assisted me to a nearby security restroom where I lay down on a bench to stabilize. So that is the lawmakers' version of how events unfolded. You also saw the video of how events unfolded. Now there is a hint of an assault case or assault docket built against the leader. It's unclear when this assault docket will make its way to court. It's also unclear whether or not it has to do with this incident. But as we've been working the lines back, this is the only assault case that we know was brought against the Ifutu lawmaker, Alexander Apenyo-Makin. And again, I want to go back and show you what the Deputy Attorney General has said about this incident just before we get to chat about it. Justice Shremsai, who is the Deputy Attorney General, put on his Facebook only hours ago that I can confirm that the docket on the case, the Republic v. Alexander Apenyo-Makin, is at the Office of the Attorney General, awaiting prosecutorial review and decision. Again, take note of that. He says it is awaiting prosecutorial review and a decision. The case involves a complaint of assault. Let's have a quick chat on the back of this. I still have with me Professor David Abdullahi, who is a governance expert. Joining the conversation now is Richard Kumado, who is a security analyst. I'll start off with Richard, since you're just joining us. We've tried to connect the two incidents: the Deputy Attorney General's post on Facebook, and then the assault that took place back in May. If this be the two, if we are able to marry the two incidents, how do you feel about this development?
No, the police have actually announced recently that they've sent a docket to the Attorney General's department. So it was just today that Dr. Justice Said announced what he did on his Facebook. And so the police did this, not knowing what was going to happen today in Parliament. If we are connecting the dots, then probably somebody might have hinted the police that today this argument was going to take place, for which we are connecting the dots. Other than that, I can confidently say that the police announced to the whole world they've sent a docket to the Attorney General's department, not today, not yesterday.
Right, so we can confidently say, Richard, that assault case that the Deputy Attorney General talks about in his Facebook page has to do with Officer Forson's alleged assault, which was perpetrated by the minority leader Alexander Apenyo-Makin, correct?
Yeah, definitely. This is about 6 months ago, and 6 months investigations. I think the police could have gone to court to prosecute. But remember, the Attorney General is the #1 prosecutor in this country. And so that is why they sent a docket to the Attorney General. If the Attorney General feels that the evidence in the docket supports prosecutorial decision, then that is what is going to happen. Other than that, for we as law enforcement officers who investigate issues such as assault, we have done our part, and the rest is to the Attorney General to take a decision. So the police should be taken out of this. Whatever happened in court today, they have finished their job.
I see. I'm going to move over now to David and Prof. I hope you're still with us, Prof. Again, I want you to look at the issue of timing, because then the minority leader is in Parliament, protesting the vetting of the acting Chief Justice and now Chief Justice nominee. When that dies down, there comes the Deputy Attorney General announcing a possible prosecutorial review and decision to be taken against him. Now, that timing, there's something wrong with it, isn't it?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I concur with Richard. This issue happened about 6 months or so ago, and it is now coming to the fore. But I will take it from another view, Keminni. When you are a leader, and the minority leader was a majority leader and is now a minority leader, he's a leader. And I think one thing you should understand when you're a leader is that no matter how much people are trying to, get under your skin, or even in cases where they're even trying to hurt you, you must, first of all, try as much as possible, to hold your peace. You don't react, because if you do react, then you are moving away from that realm of what a leader should do. Now, obviously, the security personnel, the police were there. If he was hit and he fell down or something like that, they would take up the case, and it would have been in his favor. In this particular case, I don't think the timing is the same. I don't think it is more of trying to get the minority speaker. But I must say, he's a lawyer. The minority speaker is a lawyer. I mean, the minority leader is a lawyer, and he understands that in law, assault or anything like that is against the law. As it is at now, and he has to go to a court of competent jurisdiction, and if he is found guilty, then he's not about the law. But if he's not found guilty, then I think it is right to his favor. But I would implore all leaders in this country and elsewhere, or all those who want to be leaders, should always make sure that you don't respond to, issues or things that try to get under your skin. Because you are a leader and you are being watched. You are living in a glass bowl. Everybody's looking at you. You have to be very, very careful.
Very well, Prof.
So that is all I have to say. Yes.
Very well. I want to come back to you, but just to re-emphasize the point that Richard has made earlier, that indeed we can link the two events, the police announcement of, sending the docket to the Attorney General's office, the Deputy Attorney General making an announcement today that, there's some kind of prosecutorial review or decision to be taken on an assault complaint against the minority leader. I want to, again, I go back into time, bring you that statement from the police on the 27th of June. If you could take a look at that real quick. Now, this is from the police when they say a footage showed Honorable Alexander Apenyo-Markin striking Corporal Forson Abel during the confrontation. On 6 May 2025, Forson Abel filed a formal assault complaint supported by a medical form and an occurrence extract. Now, this was done at the Tesana police station. We also know that several police officers on duty provided witness statements confirming Honorable Alexander Apenyo-Markin struck the officer without provocation. Honorable Apenyo-Markin later filed a counter complaint alleging he was instead assaulted by the police. And again, we have gone through the chronology of events according to the minority leader. But the police also tells us they have CCTV footage apart from other officers corroborating the story of, Constable Forson Abel. They have CCTV footage of the incident as well. They've also seen media coverage of it as well, all in that statement the police released on this matter too. But Richard, that brings me to you. Again, if you could say that again for a good understanding, Dennis. But Richard, it brings me to you because while we look forward to the decision the Attorney General's office will take, this is good morale for the police. Why is that?
The aspect of our politics has been very violent. We've all complained about it. And that is why it's imperative that political leaders and political leadership will have to be circumspect when they are demonstrating and law enforcement officers have been assigned to them. It's unfortunate that authentication happened between him and the police officer. And it happened in the glare light of everybody. And in the days where the police have their own cameras and everybody have a phone that records many of these things and they could be used as admissible evidence against you at the court of law, it presupposes that each one of us, particularly those in leadership in whichever capacity, will have to be circumspect, will have to be decent in many of these things. I was a little bit not too happy, the reason being that this incident happened in Parliament, where the minority leader is a leader. So if you are demonstrating to Parliament or issues about Parliament and he's a leader, he has every right to enjoy privileges of the police. So to go against the police in the manner it happened, I think we need to look at it again. We are dividing ourselves too much and we are fighting over things that are not necessary.
Very well, gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm out of time, but I would have loved to know what example this will set, Prof. But we'll have to leave it here for now. Professor David Abdullah is a governance expert. Richard Kumado is a security analyst with extensive knowledge in national security affairs. And that's how we'll end, the conversation today as far as this is concerned. But remember, it will continue always, and perhaps from tonight in your homes and wherever you're watching us from. What we are going to do now is to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll look at those brazen attacks on Anti-Galamsey Task Force and what action government plans to take, if any at all. Don't go away. Welcome back. It's still Ghana Tonight, live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. I'm Keminni Amanor. Now, I want to show you something you should expect on Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. Ghana's risk assessment for money laundering and terrorism financing has shown marked improvement, but vulnerabilities still exist. Now, recent public prosecution of political appointees who allegedly use the banking system to move and sometimes hide their illicit funds has raised questions about controls in Ghana's banking sector. Now, in this week's edition of Hot Issues, I query CEO of the Financial Intelligence Center, Kwadwo Mboafo, on the complicity of Ghana's financial institutions. Take a look. We also know that by law, the banks are supposed to give you information on any suspicious transaction.
Yeah.
Right. And you're telling us that sometimes you're not getting the information, as quickly as possible.
Yes, and as timeously as we want it.
Why do you think that is the case? Are the banks complicit?
No, I wouldn't want to proffer that. I think we have a very good relationship with the compliance units of all the banks. Sometimes it just gets mired in bureaucracy, really. I wouldn't want to go that far. I wouldn't say that.
But what could the bureaucracy be? Because, I mean, the law is clear on what they should do.
Yeah, it has to do with identification. And the identification is purely subjective.
There is no threshold at which the banks should flag?
There is, but like I'm saying, it's subjective.
In the national service scandal, which precedes you, of course, the question is, why didn't the banks flag all these transactions that were flying about? Is your investigation able to say why?
I dare say that maybe if the NDC government was in power, it wouldn't have happened. Because if you recall, during President Mahama's first time in office, something like that was flagged at the National Service, but it wasn't nowhere near the scale of what has happened there.
Well, now, catch the full interview 1 p.m. on Sunday, right after the midday news here on TV3 for the full version of that sit down with Kwadwo Mboafo of the FIC. Now, it's time for me to go, but I have a couple of things I need to say before we do. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., Alfred Okanse will be here with his panelists to discuss the week's biggest stories on key points. I also need you to, first of all, scratch that. Let me apologize that we are unable to bring you our last story, but that's something that will be discussed on key points tomorrow at 7 a.m. So make a date with Alfred and his panelists. On Sunday, there will be Hot Issues at 1 p.m. I also want to let you know that sometimes when we do our jobs and do it well, you won't be happy. And today is one of those days. For God and country, I will see you same time next week. Bye-bye.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint, superior durability.